This week on Top of the Stack. Welcome to Top of the Stack, the segment where I review the top picks this week in comics. Remember, I do get my comics in the mail, so these will be a week prior to the ones you may have picked up at your local comic book store. First up, we're going to be talking about Outcast number 9 by Robert Kirkman and Paul Azaceta. As you may have heard on the weekly pull or reviews from casts or even on this show, this series has kind of got stale, but this one it happens to pick up exactly the same exact moment from the last issue, and it actually goes somewhere. This is an exciting issue. We get to see the devil dude talk to one of the prior possessed, and we get to see what happens with that. There's this weird makeout scene where they exchange these demonistic, shadowy things, and then they puke up black stuff. Always fun. So then we get to see them finally find this girl, chase her down, the one they're looking for. She's obviously possessed. Our main character is about to do some beating down of this girl to get this demon out of her when he realizes he doesn't need to beat these people down to actually get these demons out of them. They are using some sort of power within him to continue living and going on. So really, it's raised a lot of questions, but it also had some good action, had some good story pieces, had a new character. So this one is actually, it's really got me intrigued in the series again, and I'm looking forward to see what's coming up next. I'm happy it ended like this, so we could really, get more excited for this. There is a TV show coming up, so I want to see a reason for a TV show. Again, Outcast number 9. This one, I'm on the scale of best Batmans of all time. This one is going to get a Michael Keaton. Just because. I mean, it could have been a little better. It was great. I felt like I should give it a higher score, but I think that's just how stale the series has been the last couple issues. So, realistically, looking at the issue, I'm going to give that one a Michael Keaton. Next up on Top of the Stack, we have Sons of the Devil number 1 by Brian Buccellato and Tony Infante. A new Image comic just released. This one, I wasn't sure what to expect from this. It said something about Orphan Black meets True Detective meets Helter Skelter. I mean, it sounded really interesting. Wasn't sure what to make of it until I read it. Starts out with a young, an infant in a house that's being abducted, kidnapped. It has strangely 2 different colored eyes. A big fight breaks out. A murder takes place. Flash forward, we see this young adult walking down the street. Happens to have 2 colored eyes. So obviously we're guessing it is that baby. He stops. He helps this young boy. He's lost. Helps him find his home. In exchange, he's late for work. He gets there. The boss is irate. Tells him to go home. He's suspended for 3 days. He tries to explain why he's late. The boss isn't having it. Ends up hitting the boss in the face. He ends up in court for that. And then we get to see one of his brothers from a foster home who is trying to help him out, trying to get him therapy and all these things. He gets this card from a pretty odd looking fellow. This brother is trying to talk to him, but main character here, Travis, isn't really having it. He goes off and says you call me brother when really we only spent a little bit in the house together. That wasn't even mine. So we kind of get to see these different aspects of this main character. He seems to be a really loving guy that we see in this beginning scene with the child and helping him, but at the same time, he's had a rough life. So you can see that aspect of him too. Later on, we get to see that this brother really cares about him, and in return, something terrible happens to him. I'm not going to totally give that away, but it ends up that he looks at this help. Through the court, he has to have therapy, and he asked the judge if he can use this card that he got from his brother, and they said sure, as long as you're getting therapy, that's fine. Calls it up. Last page, man answers, says, "We can't wait to see you. Dude has two different colored eyes. Looks creepy as hell. Can't wait for the next issue." This one being a first issue, I really enjoyed it. I thought the art was great. I thought the story was good. I'm intrigued by the main character. I'm intrigued by something crazy that happens in it. Like I said, I'm not going to spoil it. And that last page really has me interested. So on this one, I'm going to give this for first issue. I'm going to give it a Michael Keaton, and I'm looking forward to see what's coming next. And last, this week on top of the stack, I saved this one for last because personally, I was blown away by this issue, and that's why I saved it for here. And it is Material #1 from Image Comics, written by Lesh Cott, art by Will Tempest, and this is definitely not everybody's cup of tea. Honestly, when I first opened this book and I started reading it, I looked at the art and I thought, wow, this is fucking bullshit. And I almost was super turned off by this. And then I continued reading, and as it went on and progressed, I just really love where this is going. And let me tell you kind of what it's about. We got four main characters. One of them's an old man. He's a professor teaching in his class, and a young guy's like getting on to him because he's the old professor's talking about the millennials these days, and they're so attached to their devices, and this is all about hyper capitalism, and he's going off on all the things that this country's going through right now. Flashes to the next character, and she's a washed up actress on her last leg, it looks like. She's a drug addict. She gets a phone call from a director who wants to cast her in his movie. So that's where that stops. We go to the next character, and it's a young boy, young black man, 15 years old. He's in riots, and he's protesting police brutality, and it switches on him, and he ends up getting beaten and detained illegally. Then we go on to the next character, and he's a Middle Eastern man suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome, from being held in Guantanamo Bay. He was wrongfully accused. He was beaten and tortured. And that's where it stops with the first. There's 3 series of this, and that's the first series. That's where it stops in this one. That's the end of this series right there. And then we go on and we get to see 2 more instances of these characters progressing in the story. And as it goes on, it just gets better and better. We see this man, professor, with this, he gets this thing from this AI on his computer, and you see his mind kind of opening up to that throughout the story. With the actress, it's a very artsy director, and he's cutting this movie about her life, and I'm kind of really wondering where that's going to go. There's also some really good Cliff Notes type things on the bottom that point you in other directions. It talks about David Lynch when it's talking about this actor's story, which I can totally see in the way this director acts. Then we go on to the black boy, 15-year-old. He's told by the FBI or whatever to go spy on his uncle, so he goes to babysit for him. He's rummaging through his stuff, and there ends up being a pamphlet in there for the new Black Panther agenda. Then we go on to this Middle Eastern man who he has trouble with his sex life from all of the abuse he took. He has a family, though, and it's just a really interesting story that you really have to read to understand, and you may even have to read it twice. The art, as I said in the beginning, really turned me off, but as I went on and progressed in this story, it really is the perfect art for it. The coloring is great, really minimalist. The colors really bring out the emotion in this story. If comics, you're interested in seeing a story about today's issues put into a comic form, this is probably the one for you. If that doesn't sound interesting, I would probably skip this. If you liked his other writing, maybe check out the first issue and see what you think. I really loved it. It was the first time on the show I'm giving this a Ben Affleck. Don't let that score completely get you to go out and drive and see this book, because it isn't for everybody. But if you're into this political type stuff, really open-minded, look at things and look at the world, then check it out. That's it for Top of the Stack. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about these issues, or maybe if there's some I didn't read, let me know what you're reading and what you thought about those. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/geekeduptweets. And you can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/geekeduptv. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel and share it with your friends. Always stay geeked up, and remember to always hug a xenomorph. Wakes up in the middle of space, so I'm really interested in where this is going to go. It's going to be a make or break whether I keep reading or let it go. Next up, we have